Good evening, Apex family. This is a recording of a Zoom presentation we did on Sunday evening, October 19th. We are re-recording to try and condense the video and tighten up the kind of in-between time and make this experience for those of you that weren't on that call a little less time consuming and hopefully more concise. So we'll go through the slides. I'll talk through and explain everything that I explained on Sunday. And then we've got the questions from Sunday night. So on the Q&A page, we'll go through those. On the page now, I've added our executive director, Tara Belansky, her email, as well as my email. So if you have a question and you weren't there Sunday, or if you were there Sunday and forgot to ask or thought of it later, go ahead and email to either of us. We're here to answer all of your questions. Okay, without further ado, here we go. Here's the agenda. So we're going to talk through first what the changes are, most importantly. We'll go into a little bit of background on why these changes are being made, because we think that's important. How these changes will affect us, and more specifically, how they'll affect each team and each individual player. We'll talk about tryouts, what those will look like. We'll talk about the question that's come up the most with all of this is what about playing up? And I'll explain all of that. And then again, questions and answers at the end. Here we go. Okay, so in the left column, the very left column, you'll see the age groups. And then that left side is the current model we're using, 2025, 2026. As you can see, the cutoff is January 1st. So let's take, for example, U13, January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013. That's the age group. For U12, it's 2014, and so on. For next year, it's going to be August 1st. I'll explain the reasons for this change, but for now, just bear with me. It's going to be August 1st through July 31st. So if you are a player on the 2014 boys team, for example, and you're born before August 1st, so let's say your birthday is in April, you will move up from U12 to U13. And that will be the case for most of the players. If you do the math, it's the first 7 months of the year will move up, and then anything from August, so the next 5 months will be staying at the same age group. So in that same example, if you are a September 2014 birthday, you'll actually stay and play one more year at the U12 level, which is 9v9. Okay. This matrix, don't worry about screenshotting it or trying to write all this down or pausing the video even. This is going to be available on our website along with this video. Okay, moving on. So that's what the changes are. Why is US Soccer making these changes? There's more than four main reasons, and I've condensed a couple here. But the biggest thing to understand is this is actually the way it was. I grew up playing club soccer in Oregon. This is the way it was. August 1st was the cutoff. And I'm a July birthday, so I was actually always the youngest player on my team, which is interesting because December birthdays right now are in that situation. So that will change. So in 2016, going into the 2017 season, US Soccer decided to go with the January cutoff because most countries around the world use that. The idea was to improve the youth national teams, make them more competitive on the world stage, and ultimately improve our men's and women's full national teams to give us better opportunities at the Olympics and the World Cup. Since then, other than the women's success, the men's program certainly hasn't been outstanding. And U.S. Soccer has decided, and based on some studies, they've seen no real correlation between any particular age cutoff and the relative success of that cutoff. So really, they were fixing a they were trying to solve a problem that wasn't solved, and so now here we are, 8 years later, and it's actually created many more problems. So similar studies show that up to five players per team, so let's call it a third of most teams, were negatively impacted by this change. And negatively impacted can mean a whole host of different things. The January 1 cutoff did create the most trapped players, which I'll explain here in a moment. So trapped players are in the eighth grade, U14, U15 age group. Some of you may have sons or daughters in this situation right now. Number three, that this change will create increased participation, mainly because of the alignment with school year, and also more potential for college recruitment. Not that there isn't potential for college recruitment right now, but lining up age groups with graduating classes makes college recruiting, speaking as a former college recruiter, makes it a heck of a lot easier than trying to figure out a team full of, let's call it 2026 and 2027 grads, knowing which players are actually eligible to come into college the next year. So it does give some help there. And then finally, and most importantly with the change, this gets players back to playing with their grade year peers, which you may be thinking, why is that so important? Right now, they've got peers on their teams and their age groups, and it's not a problem at all. But there have been numerous studies showing great developmental benefits and social benefits to actually playing with school age grade peers. Okay, so that's why these changes are being made, basically resetting back to the way it was. So how will these changes affect us? Obviously, we could say these are great rules. Thanks for sharing, but we're going to keep things as is. We're not going to do that. We're going to change right away for a number of different reasons. Um, so yes, rosters will look different, but this will be a positive for youth soccer around the country, mainly because of the reasons I just stated. Playing at your proper age, proper meaning now August 1st through July 31st, does for the most part line you up with your classmates. And again, those social and developmental benefits, especially in the long term. It's going to be hard to see instant impact on development just because we changed the makeup of rosters. But over time, playing with peers, that's where we'll see the most benefit. So it's one of the reasons why we want to move straight away into these changes and not try and kick the can down the road, as it were. It will be, I should say, uncomfortable in the short term. There's going to be current, teams that have been playing together at Apex for 3 or even 4 years, and those rosters will break apart in some ways. They're not going to be completely blown up. Obviously, a lot of players will move into the next age group together, and joining some players moving down from the older age group. But there will be rosters at every age group that have different types of players. That happens every year with tryouts anyway, but not to the extent that we'll see here. So our priority was to get everyone to the right spot as soon as possible. Okay, so what will tryouts look like? If you reference that slide, that first slide as kind of what's happening, get used to seeing U12 or U13 or, all the way up the matrix, rather than the birth year. So right now, for example, I coach a 2013 boys and a 2011 boys team. Okay. So next year, most of my 2013s will move into the U14 age group. So I will coach, if I stay with that team, I will coach a U14 boys age group and a U16 boys age group if I were to stay with both of my teams, for example. Okay. So it gets a little confusing if you start using birth years because, for example, on those teams, they would now be August 1st, 2012 through July 31st, 2013. Okay, so we're going to switch all of our messaging to being U12, U13, U14, etc. All players should anticipate trying out with their new age group. So if they have been, I'll keep using this age group as an example, if they've been a U13 player all year and they're after the August 1st deadline, they should try out with the U13 boys or girls team in May. They should not move forward with the rest of their group and try out with the U14 age group. unless we've had specific conversations, which I'll go to here shortly. So that's what tryouts will look like. We'll have coaches named like we did this past year. My goal is to have coaches named for every age group by March. That gives parents and players plenty of time to know who their age group coach is going to be, and even if we're anticipating multiple teams in an age group, naming those coaches as well. So that way everyone knows ahead of time. Okay, so what about playing up? We currently have a policy at Apex FC that if you are competitive enough to play in the age group up 1 year, then you can and really should do that. So what we mean by competitively strong enough, it's loosely defined because there's always exceptions, and we want to be careful of having a hard and fast policy that's exclusionary or that doesn't give us the flexibility to work with specific unique situations. So broadly defined is that you're clearly in the top third of the team a year older. So, for example, if you're a 2015 boy and you're wanting to play up, you should be really good enough to be in the top third of the 2014 boys team. And we've got some players that fit that criteria currently. So clearly in the top third of the team, clearly a consistent starter, clearly a difference maker for that team. Like, for example, your absence would be noted if we didn't have you on that team. The reason we kind of define it that specifically is because just being good enough to play up a year and kind of being able to hang at that next year up age group isn't actually developmentally that beneficial. Now, yes, some time to train a year up and get used to the physicality of the next year up, or the speed of play is a bit faster. Yes, that can have some benefits. But actually playing at your own age group, and maybe being near the top part of the team, even one of the top two, one or two players on your team, also has some great developmental mental benefits that you would miss out if you were kind of in the middle or near the bottom of the next age group up. So really, unless you're at the top of that next age group up, we're gonna keep you at your same age group. Um, this decision will be made on an individual basis. So we're not going to broadly apply this to every age group. We're going to have conversations with each head coach to see if there are any players in their group that meet this criteria. And so then we would have conversations with the family, with the player themselves, and then with me, the director of coaching. We want to be careful about creating too many players and just having, hey, I want to stay up. I've been playing with this age group for 2 years. I want to move up with the age group because my friends are there. Or, we want to make this a really, truly developmental decision rather than a social decision. Now, we realize this is in a lot of ways a social club as well, so we don't want to ignore the social piece of it, but playing up decisions we want to make on soccer ability and developmental potential rather than, hey, this is just what we want. And as a parent, I'm a parent of a 2011 and a 2013 child, one which plays soccer, one which doesn't. And, my daughter would have been one that would not be moving forward with her age group. She's a 2011 December birthday, so she's the youngest in that age group. And actually, for her, playing at the 2012 level is much more developmentally appropriate. So that would be an easy decision for us. But some of you that are listening to this would have a player that's born after August 1st. And like, yeah, he's at least he or she's at least in the middle of that team. They've been starting all year. Um, they should really move up with the group. We want to caution you. We want to have everyone really take a hard think about what is best in the long term. It's going to be uncomfortable most people will probably see this as dropping down to the younger age group or moving backward in some ways. That's not the case at all. There's lots and lots of developmental benefits to playing at your own age group and really being a top player in your team. The one exception you can see at that bottom bullet point there. So on our DA program, which is U8 to U10, it's designed to be a 2-year program. The methodology that we use, Coach Erickson down in Bend, Coach Bailey up in Redmond, is really designed for 2 years. The principles of play, the markers that we try and hit. So there's going to be, when we've already looked at the numbers, there's going to be some players that have been now in the development academy for 2 years and actually could qualify to stay for a third year. Now, if the family is fine with that and loves the DA and wants one more year for their son or daughter, then we're not going to force you out. But really, because of the 2 year nature of that program, we're going to make a few more exceptions for DA players moving up to U11 than we might for players that are already in our premier programs. So DA parents in both Redmond and Bend, just understand that if your son or daughter's been in there for 2 years already, that you might be we might have a little more flexibility to move them up. Okay. Now we're into the Q&A part. So some really good questions that we got. One is August 1st versus September 1st, and kind of why OYSA went with August 1st. And that was the most common around the country. That was the most common. U.S. Soccer gave states flexibility to choose August or September, or even to stay at January. And I don't think any state stayed at January, but a few states did choose September. So in Central Oregon, the school cutoff is actually September 1st. So there's going to be quite a few kids in our club that are August birthdays that might be sixth graders next year. And in terms of the age cutoff, would be playing on a team of all fifth graders. So in that case, we would likely, depending on the wants and need, that might be perfectly fine for the family and the player. But if they're wanting to move up so that they can play with their peers, that's a good reason for that to happen. Even if they don't fit all of the, now, if they're way out of their depth playing in that next year up, we would still probably recommend they stay. But if they're middle of the pack or at least, in the ballpark with that next age up, just getting them with their grade year peers would be a motivation. So for those August birthdays, um, that's how we'll solve those ones. There will be some players. So those trapped eighth graders that I mentioned before, right now we have U11 through U14 playing this fall. And in some cases, we have U15 teams where we had enough 2011 players to create kind of an eighth grade fall team while their ninth grade teammates were playing high school soccer. So moving forward, OYSA will only have U11 through U14 leagues for our premier teams. The DA teams, U8 through U10, will still exist. So there won't be those U15 teams. So we may have some players that are U15 technically. Let's say they're a July 31st birthday. Um, they may be U15 and have nowhere to play because they're still in eighth grade. They can't play high school soccer. There isn't a U15 league. So OYSA is in the process of putting together a waiver that we would apply for so that player could essentially play down a year just for that fall season and compete with a U14 team, even though they're U15. There's a question about whether this would happen in the spring. And no, the teams that your sons and daughters are currently on is what they will stay with right through the spring. There's, the Founders Cup that's about to start next week, the President's Cup, any tournaments that go into the spring. We're doing a tournament, a lot of our teams in Boise. Those will be based on the current model, January 1st through December 31st, with the birth year age groups. It's not until tryouts hit that we will start talking about August 1st as the cutoff. And I realize it's only October. Why were we already talking about this? But I know most of the people on the call, I think we had 75 or so on the call that, they were tuning in because it's important to them. And we don't want to be late to the game. We want our families to be as educated as possible on all of this so we can make plans moving forward and be really organized. Um, and then just one final way, I actually might go back to this first slide here, just to finish things off. And this is, on the call on Sunday, we had some questions about, what about this person? What team would they be on? It's a lot harder to wrap your head around August 1st through July 31st. Um, so the easiest way to think about it is by grade level. So a U14 is going to be in general, that's going to be an eighth grade team. Moving up from there, U15, ninth grade, U16, 10th grade, U17, 11th grade, and then U18, U19 will be kind of a combination senior year. Moving down from U14, U13 would be seventh grade, U12 would be sixth grade, U11 would be fifth grade, U10 would be fourth grade, and so on. And again, we'll share that information. That's not hard and fast because obviously there's fluctuation. Kids get held back, kids get start school earlier. So we don't use that as a basis, but that's kind of a helpful way to think about it. Okay, my daughter's going to be in eighth grade next year. Okay, she'll be a U14 player. All right, I will leave it there. Thank you for your time and your attention. And again, here are our email addresses. So if you have any questions, your first step is probably to go to your age group head coach, the current head coach of your son or daughter's team, and have a conversation with them. If you have something specific to your son or daughter that doesn't necessarily apply to their team, by all means, come to Tara or myself at the email addresses you can see below. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you guys all on the field.